Hello, my beautiful fragrance family. Dustin here, fragrance fan. Go ahead and do me a solid and click that like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit that bell notification. And I'm just going to keep on bringing you guys these budget-friendly fragrance reviews, that $40-ish and $100 range, and most of these are way less than that. A good number of these you can find at your rack stores, and this one here, when I say way less than that, well, let me tell you, I found this one for $5.98, right? Or $5 or $6.98. I think it was $5.98, yeah. And I haven't been let down by this house yet. As far as the classic match ones, I'm talking about Belcam, the classic match version of Obsession. A lot of y'all been screaming about this one, and when I saw it marked down for $5.98, I had to jump on this one. So, about the presentation, it looks more like the women's version, but this is the men's version of Obsession. I think it's just because it's the same exact shaped bottle as the Drakkar one, so cost effectiveness. Atomizer cap is extremely light, but it's strong for being so light. The atomizer itself, it does the job pretty decent. They're all that like cheap atomizer collar and everything like that. But so this is their version of Obsession, and if you don't know what Obsession smells like, Obsession is going to be this tart, citrus, spicy coriander with warm cinnamon, green pine, tart berries. It's abundantly powdery, earthy, hints of vanilla, masculine, very classic, loud, and sharp. That is what Obsession is. It's a warm, complex, deep, lot of stuff going on in it type of a fragrance. And again, to sum it up, it is very classic. Sharp, tart, powdery, loud, and a hint of sweetness. That's what's an Obsession. And like the sweetness is not even a forward thing. You don't even like really, when you smell it, you're not going to say to yourself, hey, this is a sweet fragrance. You're going to say this is sharp, spicy, and powdery. Most people are probably going to think powdery and old manish, but there's so many people that you would think that wouldn't like something like Obsession that really do. So, how does Belcam's classic match stack up to it? How does it perform? How accurate is it versus Obsession? Obsession goes for what, like $40 or something, maybe more, maybe a little bit less, give or take, depending on where you buy it from. And this was $5.98. So right off the bat, in the opening, you're gonna get that classic match opening. A lot of these, at least the three that I have, this one, the Drakkar, and the Polo Green. The Polo Green has it the most, but they all have this weird woody opening. And it's not like some kind of natural wood or a wood that's even supposed to be there in the fragrance, but it is there in the top, but it doesn't even take 2 minutes for that thing to just vanish completely and this to completely turn into what it's trying to replicate. In the air, you don't get so much of that woody thing. It's just going to be right up on skin when you're trying to diagnose and dissect the fragrances, when you're going to, realize that there's something there that doesn't really belong. But when it vanishes, when I say that they are very close, you're talking it is 90 to 95% similar to the formulation that they have right now. This, I don't have the old formulation, but from what I remember, is almost a dead ringer to it. Almost a dead ringer. The one that they have now is a little bit sharper and more abrasive on the spices, whereas this one is a little bit more toned down. Doesn't mean that it doesn't project as far and it's not as loud. It's just those spices are less abrasive. They don't attack and offend your olfactory as much as the Obsession that is released right now. The Obsession that's out now performs good, still smells good, and definitely gives you that feel that it had back then. Back then, I think the thing was a monster beast performer, but now it's a good performing fragrance. Obsession now is like 7 or 8 hours, at least on me. Every time I've wore it, it pumps off decent. How does this one stack up to that? Well, when I was doing the battle, it was right there with it. It was staying, like I did 2 squirts of Obsession on this hand and like 2 squirts of this one on this hand, and it was just neck and neck. Sometimes I felt like this one was fading off a little bit more, and other times I felt like it was pumping off more. I think that's just depending on when I smelled them and how tired my nose was and what I smelled afterwards before I went back and forth to it. But in the end, when I was trying to mentally keep a tally of the two of them, it was right there with that Obsession that's released right now as far as the projection and the longevity. So it lasts at least 7 to 8 hours. It is a good performing fragrance. The only time that these things become like undetectable or impossible basically to tell the difference is in the extreme dry down. When you get where they're fizzling out, and I haven't ever gotten to the point to where they're gone altogether. It just seemed by the time I was going to bed like they maybe had an hour of time expectancy left in them. That's when they smelled almost exactly the same. But throughout the opening, the first 2 minutes of the regular Obsession is a little better. After 2 minutes, this one is better for like the next 7 hours, and then they become the same. So overall, and I even showed somebody, I said, which one do you like better? And they said, wow, it's really hard to tell. And said, well, I think this one is less abrasive. She was talking about that one. And I agreed. I think this one is actually better than the Obsession that's released right now. $6. So at this point, you're almost paying for the name. So that's just what's going on there. I mean, the Drakkar is the same way. The Drakkar, for whatever reason, it's like the old formulation, and it's a little bit better as far as not being so abrasive. But it still holds true to that entire DNA of Drakkar. And they did the same thing with this classic match version of Obsession. It's really, really, really good. Did not disappoint me. Did not let me down. Stayed true to all that sharp, tart, citrus, warm spiciness with that cinnamon. Some of the florals in there, like the geranium. That green pine is still in there, nice and crispy green pine. Little tiny hints of the vanilla and the amber in the backdrop. In the far dry down, you start detecting some of the woods, earthy patchouli and moss. It's all in this thing. Every bit of it is in here. So yeah, overall, what's my rating on this going to be? It's a 6.5 out of 10. I'll say it's a 7. You know what? I will. I'll say that it's a 7 out of 10 because it performs really stinking good. The scent profile is like a 6, you know. I like the smell of Obsession, but it's not my favorite. But I do like the way that it smells. And I'll notch this thing up a whole nother point just because it performs so good. So, gem territory for a $6 fragrance. That's crazy to me. But it is what it is. So this is a very mature fragrance. Mature, cool weather. Evening is probably best, but you can do just fine doing whatever during the day. Casual, business, grown up, mature, confidence, boss, you know, suit and tie kind of thing even, to casual, but cool weather. Anything cool weather is a green light for this. Just don't wear this thing on those bright sunny days. I mean, you can. Office, tone it back. Because a lot of people might think that you smell like their grandfather, so just tone it back. Don't let the cubicle next to you smell this thing. Let them smell it when they're hovering over your shoulder looking at your computer or something. So that's my final thoughts on the classic match version of Obsession. With that, I'm out. Y'all be blessed. Take care of yourself always, and until next time.